we have to disagree sometimes. However, it can be a little bit tricky when we're disagreeing with our boss.
Today, we're going to be giving you tips on how to disagree with your boss without getting fired. So if you're going in to talk to your boss about something that you're disagreeing with, you've got to get specific. You have to know exactly what it is that you're going in to talk about. What are the negative outcomes that are going to happen if this is not resolved?
Once you've nailed that down, once you know exactly what it is that you need to have this conversation about, you're ready to talk to your boss. I know exactly what's going on. I know what the problem is. I know when this happened. I know why it happened. I know how we can resolve it. We're gonna get pumped up and we're gonna have this conversation right now. I'm ready to talk to you. I know exactly what's going on. I know what the problem is. I know why it happened.
Often this is how we go into these conversations. We get hyped up. We think that we're going to have to defend ourselves, defend our values, our perspective. Reality is though, when we're on a team, having these conversations is huge to being able to build relationships, to ensure that we really feel fulfilled in our jobs and in our roles. So not having these conversations is not an option. We're going to have this conversation with our boss. It's going to be a productive conversation, a productive disagreement that gets us to a different outcome, ideally, or at least gives us good insight.
You're in the mindset of having a conversation. You're ready for this. You're pumped up in all the right ways this time. And you have defined exactly what the issue is, what you want to have a conversation about. So where do we start when it comes to this conversation? First things first, start with finding a shared perspective. What can you agree on? Is this issue causing some sort of inefficiencies within the team, within your patient care? Is that something that you both mutually care about? What can we build upon? Finding something that you both care about and starting the conversation there.
When we find a common ground, what happens is we don't get that defensiveness. We feel like we have a shared perspective, that there's something that we're both working towards. And the reality is that if we're having this conversation, there should be something that we're both working towards, something that we want to be able to achieve. Like Christina was mentioning, if that is great patient care, becoming more efficient, being more productive, we both get passionate about those topics. Let's start there, and then we can move towards finding an outcome for the specific issue at hand. The only way we can get there is if we start by saying, this is what we want to achieve. Let's achieve it together.
All right, now we know exactly what it is that we want to have a conversation about. We are in the mindset to have this conversation, and we have uncovered the foundation, that shared perspective that we can build the conversation upon. Next step is ask for permission to have a conversation. Schedule a time for the conversation. We are all super busy, so we need to make sure that we're doing this in a time frame where we can actually have the conversation. So not a, hey, got a quick second, can we talk right now in between patients? That's not the right time to do it. We want to deliberately schedule time for the conversation.
We want undivided attention. We both want to be able to focus on what it is that we're talking about. And the only way it's going to happen is to schedule the time.
So don't leave a cliffhanger. Make sure that you're giving a little insight into what you want to talk about. You can't just say like, I have something I want to talk to you about. Something happened today that we should really talk about. That's not enough information. Try something like, hey, I really would like to get your opinion on something that happened today that I'm feeling uncomfortable about. You know, a little bit more information. Or I'd like to get your opinion on something that directly affects patient care. Remember, what is that little thing that they like to talk about? So it piques their interest and they say, sounds like we need to have a conversation about something. So when would be a good time for us to sit down and have a conversation about something that is directly affecting patient care? Right now, right at this second? No, I'm not gonna fall for that. So let's schedule a time for it.
All right, so now it is time to have the conversation. But we've talked about this, so we're not going to let ourselves get hyped up about this. We are having a conversation, and though it feels really intimidating because we're going to talk to our boss, there's that authority level. It is okay. We're having a conversation. We want to make sure that if we're on a team, that all of our voices and perspectives are able to be heard and to be respected. And having these conversations builds that culture. So you taking a step and doing this has a huge impact for the entire team, not just the two of you. We're gonna have the conversation. We had scheduled the time and we're walking into the meeting now. We're gonna take a deep breath, shoulders high, calm ourselves down. And we just want to be able to bring whatever the barrier was to the attention of, in this case, the dentist. We're going to take the common ground that we found and we're going to express our concerns based on what that common ground was, with the intention of just getting their perspective, getting their input, seeing if there is something that we may have missed that might just clear this up and make us more comfortable in the situation. We're going to give you a few kind of verbal cues for what you could say as an example. Of course, you will have to tweak these to your unique situation.
Okay, we need to start with what you already know. So we built the foundation on what can we agree upon. So start right there. Start your entire disagreement with, I think we can both agree on blank. It's a perfect platform to start a conversation. If you both are in that yes mindset, then we're not in that combative state and we can continue the conversation. So I think that we can both agree that we love our patients. I think that we can both agree that treatment planning is something that we are consistently striving to perfect in this practice. What is it that you can both agree on, and what is going to bring you to that conversation on where the disagreement lies? So after you give this platform of we can both agree on something, the next thing is bringing to light that there is a disagreement somewhere, but asking for clarity. What are we lacking in this conversation? Their perspective. You know yours, but you don't know theirs. So the next thing that we're asking is for their perspective. Tell me why this happened. Help me understand how this happened. Help me understand your perspective on this. What do you think about this? Tell me more about this. Really offering that opportunity for somebody to have a conversation and to deliver their perspective. Chastity, you and the doctor have disagreed on something. We're having the conversation and it directly is about patient care. And you do not agree with the diagnosis that the doctor has just given.
This is a common one, right? We can all relate. And a lot of it is not because there's not quality care on both sides. It's just that there's not a shared perspective. So if we go into it with that, I would say I think we can both agree that patient care is really important to us. If you could help me to understand the treatment recommendations for this patient, that would really help me. And allowing them that platform to explore why it is that they recommended the treatment that they recommended. Gaining perspective alone can help to rectify any issues that are surrounding discomforts with which way a treatment recommendation went, just by having their perspective. Delving into this conversation, you may have just gained a different perspective. You might have gained their perspective, which
aha moment
resolves it on its own. That's all that you needed. Or maybe you still need to share your perspective. All you have to do, ask permission to do so.
I would like to share my perspective with you.
If we take an example that maybe something is added to your role and your boss is really focused on efficiencies, you may go in to have the conversation to say, I know that we're really focused on efficiencies and this was just added within my roles. Can I share with you my perspective on how this is also impacting efficiencies? Then you can express any concerns you have for that being within your role, and that might lead you to that more defined outcome, or at least a perspective as to why that was added to your role as opposed to someone else's.
Sharing your perspective is going to help bring this whole conversation together. I see your side, you see my side, and now we can come to resolution. A lot of times you're going to see this if it's like something that has to do with the whole team or efficiencies within the practice, something that you actually need like a tangible outcome. But sometimes at the end of the day, there might just be perspectives that exist. And there is always the possibility that you might just have to agree to disagree. Because the reality is, at the end of the day, this is your boss. This is their business. And what we want most importantly is just at least to be able to have the conversation, to have it comfortably, and to have it confidently, to ensure that we are sharing when we have these moments of disagreement and we're not just letting them go on the wayside or on social media because they're happening anyway. We might as well have them with our boss.
We hope that this video gave you some great tips on how you can disagree with your boss respectfully and productively without getting fired.